Welcome back to Ratty Tutorials. In this portion of the garage door project, we're going to be setting up the Raspberry Pi in a normal configuration to start installing the Apache server onto. So we're going to be downloading it off of the website, configuring a micro SD card and installing it onto there. We'll boot it up, and then we're going to start changing accounts, disabling the root account, changing passwords, just to have good security practices. So you'll learn how to do some of that stuff, and then we'll figure out how to connect it to Wi-Fi or Ethernet to your home network, so then we can start making configurations to the Raspberry Pi over SSH, so it's not connected onto a different monitor, but you can just jump onto any computer in your house and start changing the Raspberry Pi. And then we're going to learn about a really cool software called AngryIP Scanner, which will help you find your Raspberry Pi on your network if you've lost the IP address. Alright, so let's go ahead and download the Raspbian image off of their website. So you can go to raspberrypi.org right here, go over to downloads, and then we're going to download the Raspbian image right here. And then we can download, I'm going to download the Raspbian Lite version. That's really all we need, and it doesn't take nearly as long. I'm going to download the zip. Once you have it saved, alright, so once you've already downloaded the image and unzipped it, here's the file right here that I want to save onto my SD card. So I've already plugged it into the computer, and I'm going to now use a piece of software called SD Formatter. You can download it online, and we're going to format my SD card to make it ready to go. So we're going to do format. Okay. Hopefully it didn't format my C drive. Alright, so it's formatted in FAT32. It's a 4 GB SD card. Alright, so it's all ready to go now, and so we can start burning the image onto it. So we're going to use a piece of software called Win32 Disk Imager. Download this off of the internet. And then, so we're selecting E as the drive. That's the correct drive number. And we're going to go find my image. So we have our image right here, we got selected. So we've got image going to E, and we're going to go ahead now and hit write. Alright, so once the image is completely written to the SD card, we can unplug it and plug it into the Pi and power it up. Alright, now I'm going to be going over the piece of software called AngryIP Scanner. So the purpose of using this piece of software would be if you forgot the IP address of your Raspberry Pi and you don't know how to SSH back into it. So you can use this tool to kind of scan everything on your home network and figure out everything that's on there, any iPhones, Android devices connected, but it'll also find where your Raspberry Pi is. So first we got to figure out where we want to scan, what range we want to scan in. And to figure that out, you can kind of see what the IP address of your computer is right now. So you can open up the command prompt, CMD command prompt, and in the command prompt you can type in IP config, just like that. Enter, and you can see that my IPv4 address is 10.0.0.162. Okay, so the way that works is I want to start scanning in the range from 10.0.0.1, that's the start of where all the IPs can be in, and then I want to scan all the way to 254. Alright, so 255 is the last IP address in this range here, and that's called a broadcast IP address, and you don't really care to scan that one. So I'm going to scan from 1 to 254. That's where all the devices are going to be in my home address. So I'm going to hit start, and we're going to scan everything. Let's see what happens. Alright, so if we're going to start a new scan, let's go ahead and change some of our preferences right quick. So under Preferences, Display, I only want to display live hosts. Alright, so that's going to kind of get rid of all these red discrepancies here. So, we've got our scan. Alright, let's scan it. Alrighty. Alright, so here are the results from the AngryIP scanner. So we're going to start trying to SSH into some of these IP addresses to see which one the Raspberry Pi is. Eventually we should try to change the host name for our Raspberry Pi, and the host name should show up right here. So using PuTTY, you should download this. Just look for PuTTY, and we are going to SSH into port 22 on the IP address 00. Let's try 163 first. So hit open, and boom, we're already in. So just hit yes, and we are in. Alright, now that we have the Raspberry Pi all booted up, let's go ahead and log in. Username should be Pi, and the password is just Raspberry. Alright, we're all in. Alright, so the first thing you should always run on a Raspberry Pi is updated. So we can go to sudo apt-get and then upgrade. Alright, so this could take a minute. Alright, and mine is saying that it's fully updated, but if you have an older version, then update should stick. So now that we have the Raspberry Pi booted up, we want to go over some good security practices. So the Raspberry Pi, as it is now, it has one user account called Pi, and its password is Raspberry. So any hacker will know that. So we want to make sure to change our account, disable the Pi account, and then also change the password. So let's go ahead and do that. So you can actually see on the Raspberry Pi what all accounts are on there by running sudo cat etc shadow. So it's saying, as an administrator, cat just means show this file. Alright, so these are all the accounts right here on the left hand corner, and then this right here is the hash of the password. So out of all these accounts, Pi is the only one that's active and has a password that you can log into. Everything else is disabled. So essentially what we want to do is have a new account right below this that says the name of your user account, its password, and then we want Raspberry Pi to be just like root up here, where the hash is gone and it's disabled or deleted even. Alright, so to create a new user, we're going to run sudo and then add user, and then we're going to say our user is going to be in the group sudo, so it's kind of like adding an administrator account, and then we're going to create our user. Let's just call him Garage. Alright, adding user, let's give him a password. My password's gonna be door, garage door, makes sense. Alright, and then you can put in information here if you want to, but I'm just gonna keep hitting enter all the way down. Okay, so now if we rerun that command, sudo cat etc shadow, we should now see our new user called Garage, and he has a password. Alright, and then also if we list our home directory like that, we now have a folder called Garage, like that. Alright, so now what we're going to do, we're going to try to delete the Pi user. And so once he's gone, then we now have a brand new Raspberry Pi with only a user called Garage with a password door. Nobody in the world is going to know that, just you, so you're much less likely to be hacked with a default username and password. So to delete the Pi user, we're going to have to get out of SSH, so go ahead and close that out, and then we're going to open it back up. Log back into your Pi, but now we're going to log in as Garage and then door. Alright, we're in. So let's try to get rid of our user called Pi. We can go sudo del user Pi. Let's see. Alright, so to fix that issue of not being able to delete the user Pi, you're going to have to run a configuration command called sudo raspberry pi config. So run that, and then go to expand file system, and it'll expand your file system. and then it'll prompt you to reboot. So reboot your Raspberry Pi, and once it's rebooted, you'll be able to log back in as the garage user and then run that same command to delete the Pi user. Alright, now that the Pi has restarted, let's go ahead and log back in. Instead of typing this in every single time, you can go ahead and save this profile. So let's call it Raspberry Pi Garage or something like that. Hit save. So then now, every time that you open up PuTTY, you can just double click on this right there. It'll open it right up. So log back in as your new user, and then you can run the del user pi now. I already deleted my user, so it probably will give me an error. Alright, good. So delete it, and then so the Pi folder is still there inside of home, so let's get rid of that. Why did you not like that? Oh. Sudo remove home Pi, just like that. Okay, so now all we have is the garage account, but we can check that one more time. Sudo shadow. Alright, this is exactly where we want to be. So we have garage door, user, password is door, Pi is no longer in existence. We are ready to rock and roll now. So we have good security practices. Now let's figure out how to connect to Wi-Fi so we can get detached from our Ethernet cable. Alright, so now we're going to connect to a Wi-Fi home network. You can easily follow any tutorial online to do this, but right now I'm going to be doing the one on RaspberryPi.org. So what we're going to do is we're going to run sudo nano etc wpa. So whenever you type in a command, you can always hit tab. So WPA, I hit tab, it'll auto-complete it for me, so you can do that. Alright, so we're going to configure this file, and then down at the bottom we're going to run network is equal to, I hit tab again, you can do SSID is equal to, and then the name of your home network, and then your PSK, and then you're going to type in your password right here, and we're going to close it. So take note of all the details in here. Equal sign, brackets, close the brackets, SSID equal, and then put them in quotes for both of here. To exit out, you can look at the commands down here. You can hit Control X. It's going to ask, do you want to save? You'll just hit yes. You hit Y, and then hit enter. Okay, so I've saved it, and then to actually make the connection, you have to run sudo if up WLAN 0. So once you run that command, or you can just hit reboot, whatever you want, then the Wi-Fi will connect. Alright, so you can check to see if you're successfully connected to Wi-Fi by just running if config, like that, and then you'll see my wireless 0 is connected to IP address 10.0.0.86, and I'm still connected to Ethernet. So now if I unplug Ethernet because I only want to use Wi-Fi, I will probably disconnect my SSH terminal. So this is broken now. I'll exit out, and so now I am only connected to Wi-Fi. Now again, if you forgot what your IP address is, you can go ahead and run AngryIP Scanner again, and you can find out what your IP address is of your Raspberry Pi. And hopefully the host name will show up. Nope. Alright, well, 86. Remember I said that was my Raspberry Pi. That showed up. So let's go ahead and connect to that. So I will edit these settings for Raspberry Pi. Just hit load, edit that to 86, hit save, and then you can double click it. Yes, again, new IP address. And so now I am successfully logged in only over Wi-Fi. My Ethernet is no longer has an IP address because I've unplugged it. Alright, so we have covered all the topics for this portion. Next portion we're going to be going over how to set up the Raspberry Pi Apache server, how to do all of that, installing a bunch of different stuff. Stay tuned.